spells 5. You can spell these if you try with a knick-knack, paddywhack. Give your lap a tap. You can do it.
If you eavesdropped on your child's classroom, what would you learn? 4 quick observations will let you know if your child's education is on track. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Studio 5. So you've just sent the kids off to school with the hope and promise of a shining, successful year. But over the course of the next year, how will you know if your child's education is on track? The answer to that question is a balance of many factors, but today we're taking the long view so you can make your own assessment of your child's school, classroom, and teacher. Chet Linton's School Improvement Network is at the forefront of what works in the classroom, and I want to clarify up front, this isn't necessarily about criticism. I have a mom and a sister. They're both educators. I see the time and the heart they put into their teaching responsibilities. This is just about a collective effort to improve.
You're right. And that's what we focus on, elevating educators. We work for over 1 million throughout the country, and we want to recognize them for the great things they do.
How do you define, can you define a good teacher?
You know, a good teacher is one that really engages students in learning. They're focused on learning and what's most important to the student and engaging them to really prepare them for college and career.
Every parent, I think, would love to be a fly on the wall in their child's classroom for a number of reasons. Today, you're going to allow us to do that. You brought a couple of clips that you say parents can really learn from. We're going to start by peeking into Mrs. Stafford's class, and then you can tell us what works. Let's take a look.
Great.
Decompose, decompose, break it on down, break it on down. Decompose, decompose, break it on down, break it on down. Start with the hoe, part, part. Start with the hoe, part, part. Decompose, decompose, break it on down, break it on down.
So without even knowing the science behind what you're about to tell us, I want my child in her classroom for the energy alone.
Yeah, isn't that great?
What a happy space.
Yeah.
What works there?
So here's a classroom where every student's engaged, eyes are on the teacher, teacher's making eye contact with the kids, and they're all participating. So she pulls those students right in, and they're actually working on math, singing a song. You know, how often do we see that in the classroom today?
That wasn't music education, that was math education.
That's right.
So we're looking for children who are involved in the teacher and teachers who are involved in the student?
Right. So most importantly, the teacher's focused on learning, and how does that teacher engage those students in different activities that will help elevate those students and their learning. So one way is using music. So she's there talking about decomposing the number 5 and ways to do that, and the students are learning rhythm and how to think about that differently than just here's a paper.
What a great teacher. We have another example, a little older group. This is Mrs. Salvia's high school ESL class. What do you want us to learn from this particular classroom?
I think one of the neat things here is the way this is a high school classroom where the students have been grouped together and the students are engaged. We hear about students participating and doing things differently. Well, here's a great example of them doing that.
You have 4 things parents can watch for to know if their child has an effective teacher, and one you say is as easy as just walking into the classroom.
Right, and this is in that classroom is a great example of students. They're not just in rows. Many of us are used to sitting in rows looking to the front of the class, kind of the sage on the stage, but the reality is there are many things. One is, how's the class grouped? Are the desks grouped together, or are they in the old traditional rows? Are students actively engaged, as we saw in the kindergarten class? Are students excited to be there? Are they using technology and doing things differently than the way we all grew up as parents?
If you noticed your child's classroom, the desks, for example, a very simple observation to make, they're in those traditional rows like you talked about. Is it a parent's place to perhaps suggest something different to the teacher? What's the balance there? That can be a fine line.
Well, teachers are experts. I mean, they are the professionals that taught all of us and are teaching our kids. But I think it's very appropriate to ask questions. Are the desks always this way? Do the students get grouped? Do they collaborate? What are the things, you know, we can ask questions and find out. And it may not hurt to ask the principal as well.
You say there's something parents can learn from what's coming home in your child's backpack on a daily basis. Teach us about that.
Yes, well, the old black line master, the photocopy, is not my favorite thing to see. And often it's a very easy way to send kids home with the something that we're familiar with. But the reality is, our kids should come home and be looking for different things that they need to do for school. You know, are they creating a poster? You know, some classes, some teachers, English teachers, for example, my own daughter, her English teacher said, I want a poster about the book you read. My son was just last night working on some of those photocopies, but we ended up talking about the world and latitude and longitude and where places were and trying to make it real. So if our students, our children are actually asking us to do some research online, that's good. Or do they want us to go outside with them and look for something in nature? Or, you know, we're starting to see teachers ask their kids to take pictures of a flower and come back and tell me about the structure of the flower. So things that are more engaging than just looking in the book or coloring a picture or writing something on a photocopy. There are many things that we're not used to that I think it was very helpful if we're open to them as parents.
I like the solution, though, as well, that even if a black and white photocopy does make its way into that backpack as homework that evening, as a parent, you can expound on that, right, and bring the education to life. Parents often ask the question, how was your day? That common, you know, end-of-day inquiry. Tell me a better question that you think parents can ask.
Well, one I really like is, that drives my kids crazy, is what did you learn today? You know, it takes it from how was your day? Yeah, we do care. We want to know.
Sure.
But what did you learn? And I don't know is not acceptable, and nothing is not allowed. So there are a lot of teachers now that are even using a strategy called ticket out the door. So before they let their kids go, they say, what did you learn today? As parents, it's good for us to ask that question. It helps our students think about what they learned and reinforces the learning of the day. So
let me ask you this, Chet. What is the standard for technology in classrooms these days? What can we be expecting and hoping for, I guess, is the better question.
I think what we really should hope for is a 1-to-1 computer ratio, meaning that students have access. You know, we're in a state where money's tight. We're lucky if kids get access in labs for about 1 hour. However, we have a network. We have one of the finest network backbones in the nation. In fact, it's probably the best. So the technology's there, and we're seeing a lot of good things happening. But one of the big shifts is BYOD, which is bring your own device or bring your own technology. So if parents get asked about this isn't a bad thing, because we're seeing schools start to get creative in how they get technology into the classroom until they can actually afford to get the iPads and the devices, the tablets, and whatever else in students' hands.
It's an interesting philosophy. Back when I went to elementary school, it was BYOC, bring your own crayons, right? And now we're bringing our own computers, perhaps. So definitely changing and transitioning to help our kids learn the very best they can. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Really interesting insight on what parents can do. And Chet was telling our producer that the term Common Core, it has really sparked conversation, heated conversation among parenting circles. So coming up, we'll chat about what these new educational standards are and what they are not, debunking the myths about Common Core. That's still ahead on Studio 5.